I fell asleep while running. I had to lie down on the trail and sleep a bit until I woke up from the cold 15 minutes later and carry on. And then Joe was hallucinating at one point. But then, the sun rose and we still didn't run into each other. And then the sun got up a bit higher, and then finally we saw each other. And that moment was beyond you're not able to describe it, because both of us had been through such a horrendous night, and then the sun rises and you see the mountains again, and then you see your friend who's been with you for 48 days and very rough conditions, and then that was a glorious moment.
Episode 290, the current Pacific Crest Trail speed record holder, Karel Sabbe. This episode is sponsored by Health IQ. If you're exercising regularly, don't you think you deserve a special rate on life insurance? Find out how much you can save by taking the health quiz for your adventure sport at healthiq.com/adventure. A few minutes on their site could save you a bunch on your life insurance. Get rewarded for all your hard work at healthiq.com/adventure. You're listening to the Adventure Sports Podcast, brought to you by 180 Tech. We talk with adventurers from around the globe to bring you the inspiration and motivation you need to get started in the outdoors or to keep you moving if you're already there. Now here's your host, Kurt Linville.
Hello friends, Kurt here. Thank you so much again for listening to the Adventure Sports Podcast. Excited to visit with Karel Sabbe today. Karel is in Ghent, Belgium, and he's on the horn to talk to us about his record-breaking feat doing the fastest thru hike of the Pacific Crest Trail. He broke that record just last summer, 2016, and he's also done some really cool other things like the Marathon de Sables and also a coast-to-coast New Zealand trip, and I'm going to have to get more information from him about that. But Karel, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kurt. I'm happy to be here.
Well, Karel, this is an amazing thing. You ran the Pacific Crest Trail in 52 days, 8 hours, and 25 minutes. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm already used to it now, but at the time when I was even considering doing that, it seemed incredible to me as well. It still does, but a year later, or almost a year later, it feels normal now.
Right. Well, Let's come back to that, because I want to hear the details about what it was like to cover that much ground that fast on that trail. It's just an amazing feat. But first, let's get the backstory. So you're from Belgium, and you're a dentist.
Yeah, that's right. My regular profession is dentistry.
And how is it that you find time to be an ultra runner and a dentist at the same time?
So when I decided to go for the PCT record, I switched from full-time dentist job to a more or less part-time one. So I would have time during the week as well to do some really long runs. Like on Wednesday I was free, on Thursday mornings I was free, and then I had the weekends to do some extra training as well.
Well, that's kind of cool. You know, an awful lot of people who are dentists would probably say, dentist is more than a full-time gig. I don't see how I could have time to do it, but you found a way to go part-time.
Yeah. So part of that possibility is that I don't have my own practice yet. So I'm working in two joint practices, which makes it possible for me to change into a part-time. I don't think that's perfectly possible if you have your own practice with your own patients. But for me, I graduated a few years ago. I don't have my own practice yet, and this was something I could do.
I see. That's really cool. But that also tells me something about you. You must value your ultra running career quite a lot if you're going to give up, being a full-time dentist for it. Yeah,
it's true. I'm passionate by running, by nature, by adventure, and for me, I'm gladly reducing my income to be able to do something extraordinary and adventurous, like running PCT and training for that.
Well, I love that because, the Adventure Sports Podcast is all about helping people to get a balanced life, to go out
Mm-hmm.
and do fun, challenging things, to connect with nature, to become more physically fit, healthier, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We've interviewed a lot of people who said, you know what, I know what the normal Western world is like, but I want something different. And they've had to make some kind of tough life choices, but they almost
Mm-hmm.
all come back and say, you know what, it was so worth it. The
Yeah.
experiences I've had. Do you feel that way yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've done it in the past as well. So I started working full time as a dentist, but then I decided at one point I was going to quit completely for almost a year, just to be able to travel and to live some adventures before getting more fixed into a job or a practice.
Right.
So those are all decisions that make you the person that you eventually become. And I think if you make choices like that in a much shorter time, you have so much experience that you can use for the rest of your life. You meet so many people and see so many places.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It enriches your life and gives you a perspective that you can use from then on, right?
Yeah, that's right. And even in my daily life, I can use many of those things I've seen and experienced, like during the PCT or other travels.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. I know that what you learn about yourself, if nothing else, carries over to being able to manage life on a different level. So yeah, very neat stuff. Let's talk a little bit about your coast to coast New Zealand.
Yeah.
Was this your first big event? Is this what really got you hooked on ultra sports?
Yeah, exactly. So I was a long time soccer player. Yeah, because of studying, I stopped playing soccer for 2 years because I moved to another city. And then I restarted soccer, but at a much lower level. And it didn't satisfy me anymore. The trainings were, I got back home with so much energy left and it wasn't satisfying me anymore. And during a long travel in New Zealand, I heard about an epic race called the Coast to Coast, in which you run, kayak and cycle across the southern island of New Zealand in one day. And at the time of quitting soccer, I was thinking, do I do an Ironman or a half Ironman? But that seemed pretty, theoretical to me. Like when you train for an Ironman, you have to train this many hours at that pace and at that heart rate zone. And that didn't really interest me that much. But the coast to coast is something, it's a mountain run. You kayak 67 kilometers, which is like 40 miles or something. It's so different and so much more adventurous. And then I just signed up and started training. I didn't kayak before, but I had enough time and started going for it.
So you did this really, let's call it a multi-sport. Some people might say it's a triathlon, but you're kayaking instead of swimming, right? So running, cycling, and kayaking. So when you did this race, then it must have impacted you because you kept doing ultra events after that. So what was it like?
Yeah, it was such an eye-opener, really. It was so adventurous and I met like-minded people there. And from then on, I thought, okay, this is truly where my heart is at. And also while training for it and while doing the race, I started realizing I'm pretty talented at endurance because I pushed the kilometers during the training and the hours and my body could take just about everything I was asking from it. So then it got me wondering, like, shouldn't I be doing more of this? And especially running, because running seemed to be really my sport.
So for someone who's not a runner, Could you explain to them why you enjoy running? A lot of people, they go out their door to run, and it might be their first time out, but they go out and they come back and they go, I just don't get it. That hurt. That was hard.
Yeah.
You know? So why do you enjoy running? What is it that pulls you back?
So I think for me personally, it's important. Yeah, most of my runs are off-road, so on trails in forests on the countryside. And that makes a huge difference. If I go for a 15-kilometer run in the city, I'm not that motivated either, or the enthusiasm is. I'm also checking out my watch and how long is this? Still going on, and but for me, my passion of running is in nature running. It's so free and you don't think that you're running, and you just enjoy being out there, and your head's getting empty, and you just get into a nice state of just being in nature, and sometimes you just stop and have a look at the scenery that's in front of you. That's where I get my enjoyment of running.
I like that a lot, and I have also found it's part of the reason why we do the Adventure Sports podcast, to be candid. I've found that if I pick a sport that I really enjoy, then I'm going to get more exercise. Because if I go out to exercise just for the sake of exercising, well, it takes a different type of motivation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I would say to everybody, find your own sport, if it's swimming, if it's cycling, if it's running or anything. But running is really accessible, but it's not the best sport for many people. So I don't think you should, just keep on trying to run and do it without having fun. Then you should consider another sport and find your enjoyment there.
And I've also found that over time, my interest varies from sport to sport as well. So, this year I've been enjoying mountain biking a lot. And I did last year too. It's just become one of my favorite things to do. But I still love backpacking, but I haven't climbed a 14er yet this year, because I'm spending my time on the bike instead of on the mountains. And it used to be it was all about the 14ers, but that's okay. Because as our interests change, then we can adjust and we still get the exercise. So
exactly. That's what I think as well.
Oh, that's great. So let's talk a little bit. You mentioned that the coast to coast New Zealand was very adventurous and that you liked that. Yeah. So what is adventure to you?
It's hard to describe. It's I think the biggest part of adventure is the unknown, just getting out somewhere and to lose control, because when you're running in nature you lose control a bit and you don't know what's coming up, and I think that's adventure to me, just the unknown and the state of mind of where you let go of not knowing what's going to come, and you don't care that you don't know it exactly.
So it's about the discovery and the unknown. I
so
like
the
that
coast
answer.
to coast, it was it was 140 kilometer cycling, 36 running, and 67 kayaking. That's kilometers, and you just don't know at all what's coming up. I did a part of the kayaking section, but only a part of it. And during the races, you're curious about what's coming up around the next bend, and you don't know how your body will react. But I was just so excited all the time. I was just on adrenaline from start to finish.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So you found your passion, and you realized that running was your favorite, but you liked these ultra sports. And so then came the Marathon de Sables. And we've done several shows on the Marathon de Sables now, even though I would say it's not a race that is that well known. It's very well known among the ultra runners, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But just a quick summary for our listeners who haven't heard before: Marathon de Sables is through the Sahara Desert, mostly self-supported, and you're running about a marathon a day, and then on one day you run almost a double marathon. And is it a 6 or a 7 day race?
Uh, it has 6 stages in 7 days. So
Wow.
you get 2 days for the long stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's an amazing feat, and we've done entire shows on it, but I
Mm-hmm.
can't imagine running in the sand and running in the heat. Those kinds of distances, day after day after day. What was that like?
Yeah. So for me, one of the biggest reasons that I signed up for it was because I already knew I was going to run the PCT. And as I'm from Belgium, our climate is really moderate, and it rains a lot. It doesn't get too hot, doesn't get too cold. But the first, 600 or 700 miles of PCT is just desert at its hottest, because you start late June when you start running, and I didn't want to risk getting there unexperienced in desert conditions. And so the Marathon de Sables was about 2 months or 3 months before the PCT, which gave me the time to evaluate my performance and correct parts that needed to be better or that I needed to pay attention for during the PCT.
Wow. So you ran the Marathon de Sables as a warm-up, as a shakedown for the PCT run. And the Marathon de Sables is huge. Of course, the PCT is bigger, right? But, I mean, the Marathon de Sables is amazing. So what did you learn from the Marathon de Sables?
I learned a lot about how to treat your feet in such conditions, how to keep from just getting blisters that would keep you from running at all. I learned about hydration and about not just drinking water, but how important electrolytes are. I knew how much I was sweating. I knew how my body was reacting after a few hours in the heat. That was definitely crucial in doing the PCT.
Earlier, you mentioned that running through town is, whatever. It's not that exciting, but you love to connect with nature through your running.
Yeah.
So how was running through the sand dunes of the Sahara for you?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be not such a fan of desert conditions, but over the years that has changed, because I went to the American Southwest a few times, and then I went to Namibia, near South Africa, and then started really appreciating desert conditions and how desolate they are. And so for me, running the Marathon de Sables was just a beautiful experience, and the sunsets in the desert, and then the starry skies at night. That was definitely part of finding energy to keep on running. Yeah.
So do you prefer running in the day or at night on the Marathon de Sables?
Well, only at the long stage you run at night. But in such hot conditions, I definitely prefer running at night. It's always a special atmosphere as well.
I have not been to the Sahara. I have been to the Great Sand Dunes in Colorado. And when you go up into the sand dunes, you kind of get the same feel, just miles and miles and miles of monstrous dunes in all directions. And it's magical.
Yeah, it is. Dunes are and desert it's amazing.
You know, the shapes that it form, it's almost like skin, flowing skin. And then the wind is sculpting them, and then the sunlight, as the sun changes its angle across the sky, the dunes take on all different sorts of characteristics. And I just found it so magical, so beautiful.
Yeah, it is. But for me, it took me some time. I used to not like the desert. I thought it was dead and dry, but there's so much life in desert. You need to do some effort to see it, but it's there. And desert conditions are, they really have something magical.
So how hot was it on the Marathon de Sables?
It was a really dry edition. I mean, it never rains, but the humidity was at 7% or something, which was extremely low. And temperatures got up to 50 degrees Celsius, but that would be, I think, 115 Fahrenheit something, maybe 100 and something like that. So yeah, I did get my PCT training, or the conditions were more extreme than in the Mojave Desert.
I just typed it in because that conversion is hard to do in your head. 122 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh yeah, so it was a bit over that even. So yeah, it was crazy.
I can't imagine. When the ambient temperature is that much higher than your body temperature, and you're running and trying to stay hydrated.
Yeah, but so that's also part of the MDS, so the Marathon de Sables. That actually for the elite runners, say top 50, top 100, it's actually easier sometimes than for the people who take many more hours to finish a stage. Because for me it was every day 4 or 5 hours of running, and by the time I got really I started feeling less good, I arrived and I could sit in the shade of the tent for the rest of the day. But the people who have to walk many parts or who run slower, for them, they had to run in that heat for 10 hours a day So
there's a benefit to being quick.
yeah, definitely. It's known for all competitors as well. If you run the MDS fast, it's so much easier than if you do it slow, because every day as well, I started getting blister feelings by the end of the stage, but I just got to the finish in time to take off my shoes and air dry them a bit. But all those people who take longer get blisters on the first day, then the second day they get worse, third day they are, and then it's a known sight during the MDS, people suffering with their feet.
No doubt. I mean, the sand, no matter what kind of a gaiter you use, you're going to get some sand in your shoes. If you're running with that abrasion,
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So how did you do? It sounds like you were one of the front runners. How did you finish?
I ended 37th of 1,200. So I was on schedule for or feeling confident for the PCT as well at that time.
So that's really, really good. You're saying you're in the top 4%, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Excellent, man. That's something. And for you to set the speed record on the PCT, you would have to be in that kind of shape.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by the Marathon de Sables. Part of that is because of the location. Hey friends, Kurt here. We might have the healthiest audience of any podcast on the planet. I don't know. It just seems to me that people that are out there doing adventure sports have to be pretty healthy. They appreciate being healthy, and they love to get out there and move. And we recently got a new sponsor, Health IQ, and they reward people who love to be healthy. This is cool stuff. So, do you exercise 5 times a week? If so, then you probably think you deserve a different rate on your life insurance. You're not the smoker. You're not the one who's out there abusing his or her body and having a lot of health issues that result. Instead, you're out there moving and eating right and doing right things. So shouldn't your premiums be lower? Health IQ uses science and data to secure special rates on life insurance for health-conscious people like cyclists, runners, strength trainers, vegans, and more. Matter of fact, research shows that those who frequently exercise with some intensity have a 22% lower cancer risk, a 56% lower heart disease risk, and up to a 34% lower risk of an early death. So why not get rewarded for that? Historically, you get penalized for your family history, body mass index, and other attributes, but you don't get rewarded for your health-conscious lifestyle. Well, Health IQ does reward you for your health-conscious lifestyle with special rates on life insurance. How cool is that? To get more information and a free quote, go to healthiq.com/adventure and make sure you do use that /adventure. That makes sure that they know where you heard about them on the Adventure Sports Podcast. So healthiq.com/adventure. let's change locations. Let's come to the U.S., to the Pacific Crest Trail, and let's start by describing what this trail is. So, how long was your run?
In miles, 2,650 miles. So 2,650 miles it is.
Amazing. And did you take any 0 days, or did you run every day?
No, I had one short day because I got a heat stroke, and then I ran 30 miles. So.
Oh, it was short day was 30 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Pacific Crest Trail goes from Mexico to Canada, and it goes through California, Oregon, and Washington, right?
Yeah.
You go through the Sierra Nevadas, you go through the Cascades, and other intermediate mountain ranges along the way.
Yeah.
Let's see. It's the equivalent of doing Everest how many times?
What was it again? 17 times, I think.
17 times.
Yeah. 17.
Wow. So
at my pace, I was doing 3,000 elevation meters a day on average.
3,000 meters a day. And is that just up or up and down?
That's up and down.
Up and down. So that's almost 10,000 feet. So you're covering almost 2 miles just up and down. So
that's right.
Here's the crazy part about this. For someone like you who's trained his body to do it, it's amazing that the human body can do it. But for someone who's not trained into that, for someone that says, I'm going to go run a 5K and they hurt for 5 days after that, you know what I'm saying? This just sounds like it's mind-blowing. How is it even possible for the human body to take that kind of punishment?
Yeah, and for me, that was part of my interest in doing something like that as well, to see, it was a special experience as well to realize the strength of the human body. It's incredible. Not just me, but other ultra runners or other endurance athletes or people who get stuck somewhere on a hike and they recover incredibly and make it back to a safe place. That's
Well, I've heard it said that the human body is made for distance, perhaps more than any animal that's in nature. Animals are made to go really fast, but maybe not really long, and that humans are designed to just keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And that was my feeling as well.
Well, let's go back and kind of do the play-by-play then. So you started in Mexico, and you said it was late June.
So you have to, you only have like a 2-week window of starting, because if you start too early, the Sierras are still in snow. If you start too late, the Cascades will get snow when you're still running there. So late June is kind of the time to start.
Okay. And then the first, say, third of the run is mostly desert conditions, right?
Yeah. I don't remember exactly, but I think the first, on day 16 or something, I was hitting the Sierras, and before that it was all desert. And the Sierras are still desert, but because of the altitude, you get streams and snow. So that was nice for a change.
Right. And so let's go ahead and talk about your time again. 52 days, 8 hours and 25 minutes, which is just amazing. Now, this is supported. You had people there that could help you along the way. So how are you supported? That's, I guess, the first question.
Yeah. So I got lucky because a good friend and actually my brother-in-law was able to take 2 months off to join me for this adventure. Because actually after the coast to coast in New Zealand, we were traveling there for a month. And it was then the first time that I was saying, there's something I'm considering. And I explained him about the PCT. And then to my surprise, what he said was, okay, if you ever do something as crazy as that, I'll join you and I'll support you all the way. And yeah, a year and a half later, he stood to his word and he did it. And we had a really hard and crazy time, but it was so special to do that with two people.
Oh, that's great. So he had some sort of a follow vehicle that he could go and make sure that you had food and
Yeah,
all the supplies you need. What kind of a vehicle did
exactly.
you guys use?
So we rented a 4-wheel drive. And so almost always he had to park it somewhere and then hike/run towards me to make it in time to meet up with me again.
So how did you sleep at night?
Usually Joe, so my friend, had the tent pitched already. So by satellite phones, I was estimating how long I could make it for that day, or we had a schedule made in the morning, and then he pitched the tent, and I arrived, quickly ate something, and went to sleep.
So you're sleeping on the ground.
Yeah. I think 3 nights we were able to sleep in a hotel that was coincidentally on the trail somewhere or really close to the trail.
Right. Wow. So, you know, when we interviewed Carl Meltzer about his AT run, he had a van with a bed in it, and he was able to sleep on that bed every night. So you had the additional challenge of sleeping on the ground.
Yeah. But to be honest, for me, that is, I mean, it doesn't even make a difference to me. I sleep super well on a mattress, like an air mattress. And it's my favorite place to sleep in a tent in nature. So I'm not going to use it for me to say it was something extraordinary, because I enjoyed sleeping in a tent.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I know that runners out there are saying, okay, they have 1,000 questions. Like, did you use the same pair of shoes the whole time, or how many pair of shoes did you rotate through?
I rotated 7 pairs of shoes.
7.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 7 pairs of shoes.
Yeah, and by the end they were all more or less worn out. My little toe kept on picking through his way.
And what brand and model of shoe do you prefer?
Since the beginning of trail running, I used an Essex trail running shoe, which was comfortable to me, and I never took the time to try other shoes or brands.
So you find what works and stick to it.
Yeah, I mean, for me it was a good combination of having enough cushioning and still feeling the ground underneath. Like you wouldn't trip or twist your ankle because it was too high or something.
Okay, how many calories were you going through every day?
So I was running with the Strava app that many runners and cyclists use, and that gives an estimation of how many calories you burn. And that was saying I was doing about 8,000 a day. But that application doesn't know the temperature. It doesn't know that I'm running with a backpack. It doesn't include my recovery at night or just my basic need of energy. So my estimation would be about 10,000 a day, something like that.
I was going to say, you're doing 10,000 a day. And considering most of us would do very well on 2,000, that's 5 times more food. How did you eat that much and run at the same time? That's logistically, that's difficult.
Yeah. So that was one of the biggest issues. To be sure I was going to make it, because if you cannot take them in, you lose so much weight, and I think eventually with the lack of sleep you become ill or sick, and you have to give up. Also, I knew that Joe, so the previous record holder, lost like 20 pounds during his run, and I was like, okay, if I will go through that, I'm going to get sick or just pass out. So before flying to the United States, I trained my stomach to digest while running. And then during the PCT, I got so good at it that I was running with pizza slices, and I could just eat everything without having to take a nap or something. I could just keep on running.
So eating while running.
Yeah, I mean, your stomach does get used to it. It just takes some time to get used to that, but it's possible, especially because when you're ultra running, you're running on a aerobic heart rate, and I mean, you're not running at a marathon pace, because then of course you would not be able to do that. But yeah, at the pace of ultra running, it's possible to eat just everything that you want.
Wow. So what types of foods did you do best on? Or was it just a matter of getting calories?
Yeah. So at first it was mostly carbs. And then it was just a mixture of carbs and fats, because eventually your body tells you what it wants. I was just craving fats, and that was what I was eating a lot. But then, I know I'm a dentist, but every time I saw Joe, I was drinking a Coke, a Fanta, Sprite, and then another Coke for on the go, and was just carbs all the time, just because they were easy to get in, and they made it possible to get up to 10,000 calories a day.
Wow. Yeah, I do know that when I use just carbs on a longer event, like I don't know, so let's say I'm going out on a 12-hour hike. Boy, I really crave fats and proteins by the end of the day.
It doesn't take long, no.
So, what did you use for your fats and your protein intake?
So protein intake was really important as well, of course. So as soon as I arrived at camp, I drank a recovery shake. And then I drank an overnight protein shake as well. So you drink it before you go to bed, and then it's slow protein. So during the night, your muscles recover because of them. And then what was the other thing? Carbs that you were asking, or
The fats.
or proteins?
Yeah, proteins
fats,
and fats. Yeah,
fats were just Joe was just bringing in pizza and burgers for me. I was eating them cold, but they were so what my body was craving. So it's not that healthy, but it's all relative, I think. If your body needs so many calories, it's more healthy to eat it than just to starve. I think.
Well, how did you maintain your weight by the time you finished? Did you manage to hang on to most of it?
Yeah, I was really skinny, but I think in the end I only lost like 10 pounds or something, or 8 maybe. So that was a success. Yeah, not bad.
That's still a lot of weight loss, but considering what you did to only lose that amount, that's amazing. That really is.
But also, I was a bit afraid of the weight and calorie issue. So I wasn't at my leanest when I started. So before the PCT, it wasn't like I was on a diet or something. I knew I needed my reserves, and I was going to have to need them. So I was just carrying on my usual diet, just eating heaps of food. But I wasn't like eating salads and trying to lose weight to be in the best possible shape, because for such an endurance event you don't need to be at your leanest, but you need to be comfortable and strong for something like that.
So the previous record holder was Joe McConaughey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Joe was 53:6:37. So 53 days, 6 hours, 37 minutes. And you were 52, 8 hours, 25 minutes. That's really close. You guys are only hours apart.
Yeah, that's true. And I just, even today, I cannot believe what a thing he did out there, because you have to know, for him, before him, the record was, he broke it by 5 days or something.
Wow.
So for me, I had his record to look up to, and to say every day, okay, I've got 3 miles more than him, or I've got 5 miles more than him. But for him, halfway, he was 3 days ahead of schedule. Nobody was, going to care, I think, if you book it by 5 days or by 1 day, but still he almost didn't sleep to get through those 50 miles a day, and that was something incredible, I think.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So how many hours per day did you run?
I could see it on my Strava, but I think I averaged 12 to 15 hours, I would say, or 10 to 15 hours on average, I would say. Yeah.
So these are long runs, obviously, to do this. They're long runs. So how much were you able to sleep at night then?
Yeah, sleep was the worst. So by the end, that was the main issue, that both of us, Joe and I, were just lacking so much sleep, because everything that you encounter on the way, it gets into your body, and like on day 14, for example, I slept 2 hours, then I did a 60-mile run through the Sierras, then I slept 3 hours, and then I could sleep 6 hours for a few nights, but it all gets into your body, and I think the average time of sleep was like 5.5 hours a night.
Wow, that's not a lot of sleep for your body to rebuild itself after that kind of damaging running.
Not at all, no. And afterwards, I realized even more. I mean, I was tired for 2 or 3 months recovering from it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Wow. And as you're running, did you get to the point where you felt like you were running in your sleep?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I was just falling asleep while running as well. I mean, it didn't happen too often, but sometimes I was so that tired that I just had to lay down. I fell asleep, and then I woke up from the cold and carried on. Adventurous stuff.
Wow. Yeah. So did you ever get to the point where you just questioned why you were doing it? Did you stop and say, I maybe I should just stop? Maybe I should just quit and go home?
Yeah, so before I started, that was one thing I put in my mind. I was saying I will never consider stopping unless I'm sick or severely injured, but if it's somewhere in your head that you might consider giving up, you do it on week 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, but I think you will give up if you have it somewhere in your mind. So there's absolutely no choice. You cannot consider giving up, because then you just do it. Because you're in so much pain, and you lack sleep, and you're hungry, and you're so tired, and everything hurts, and you just have to realize that you've made a promise to yourself. I'm doing this, and you're doing it, and in the suffering, it's some kind of enjoyment as well, because it's so epic that you're doing it, and as you said before, the possibilities of the human body, I was just experiencing that every day, and that was part of the drive as well, just realizing it's extraordinary.
Yeah, well, it is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary what you did. I have to ask, do you remember much of the trail itself? Was it more about the running, or could you actually describe the trail and say, "Oh, I liked it because of this"?
I would say the second, because I do have a pretty photographical memory, so many parts I can just fly through in my mind and remember how it was. But I did make a promise to myself that I'm going to hike it one day as well, because actually the way I got to running the PCT was just the idea that I had for a few years that I was going to hike it. But I wasn't able to get 6 months off again without quitting my job again, and I was happy at the practices that I was working. Then I could run it in 2 months.
Well, when you can cover that kind of distance, you can get one epic trip in a short period of time.
But I mean, many people ask me, of course, wasn't it a sacrilege? It's such a beautiful trail, and you run it, and you're so tired. Can you enjoy it? But I really did. It's a beautiful trail. I knew parts of it. I knew it was going to be something for me, and I enjoyed it so much. Every sunrise, every sunset, and then especially getting into the mountains and the volcanic parts of Northern California and Oregon. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the trail very much, definitely.
Oh, that's great. I'm really glad that you can say that. I'm not sure that every ultra runner does remember the run as well as that. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's fun. By now, you certainly know who Bent Gate is. That's for a great reason. Bent Gate Mountaineering has been sponsoring the Adventure Sports Podcast almost from the beginning, and we really appreciate that. They've made it possible for all the great shows to continue coming your way. We want to say thanks by reminding you to go to them for your backcountry gear. If you live in Colorado, then just stop by their store in Golden. If not, go to bentgate.com. They have what you need, from the latest ultralight gear to the tried and true classics for climbing, hiking, and camping, like Arc'teryx, Hilleberg, Nemo, Western Mountaineering, and many more. Need advice? They have you covered there too. Their staff are passionate adventurers who can offer help from their own experiences. Bentgate also hosts lots of events and speakers. Check out their website to see the schedule and to see all of their products. Help take care of the Adventure Sports Podcast by getting your gear from Bentgate Mountaineering.
If you're enjoying the Adventure Sports Podcast with episodes twice a week and want to help support the show and keep it going, go check out our ASP member deals site. For as little as $4.95 a month, you can enjoy some adventure discounts while supporting our cause. Go to members.adventuresportspodcast.com and sign up for a monthly plan at $4.95 a month, or save a little with the annual plan and get your free 180 stove. Thanks for listening, guys.
So what did you learn?
Partly, I learned a lot about human interaction, meaning the way Joe and I were working together. I mean, it was our project. I mean, he was getting even less sleep than I was, because after I went to bed, he was preparing my backpack for the next morning. And then before I woke up, he already brewed some coffee for me. And we were so close to each other during the record attempt that yeah, it makes you learn something about relationships, or how you can be into something together and live through the same problems or hard times, and that was something really special to encounter that with somebody that I learned. I hadn't experienced that before. And then, also, I learned exactly now what a human body is able to do. And that was so rewarding to be doing it myself, not to see somebody do it and wonder, but to be out there myself and prove that we're full of energy and strength. I mean, you wouldn't realize when you're doing your daily job, but there's so much in everybody.
Right. Well, what about injuries? Did you make it without substantial injuries?
Yeah, I did. I was in pain, a lot. I had to take many painkillers, but that was just my feet that were horrible, and my hips and my joints that were aching, but I wouldn't call them injuries. Just the day before arriving at the Canadian border, my, I think, left ankle started swelling, and that got me worried. But it was only 70 miles to go, or 60, and I made it without. I didn't feel it, but I knew if that would have been 5 days earlier, that would probably have been the end of my run, which would have been a pity.
Well, when you were looking at your pace, and I know you had to have been comparing it to what Joe McConaughey did, were you concerned whether or not you were going to be able to beat the record? Did it feel like it was down to the wire for you?
Yes and no. So because Joe was so friendly that he sent us his daily mileage, um, we knew exactly how many miles he was running every day, and that also got us comfortable because we realized, in the desert it's not necessary to run 50 miles a day or to push it to 50 miles a day. We can perfectly start out with 42, 45, and then as Oregon and Washington comes, you're fitter and the terrain is easier, and then you can do 60 milers or 65 milers. But so that was really important to know his daily mileage. And then in the Sierra, because it was so hard for Joe, so my supporting friend, to resupply me, we had to make the choice. Okay, do I run with more gear like sleeping bag and emergency equipment and food, or do we make it really hard and take a day advantage on the previous record? But then we had to push it really hard, and those were the days that I mentioned earlier that I slept 2 or 3 hours. But then that was week 2 or 3, and then we were a day and a half ahead of Joe, and then we could only keep up with his daily mileage, and then I lost a bit towards the end, and I stranded at 22 hours. But all the time I had a day and a half or 1 day advantage. So that was comforting. But all the time I knew, the slightest thing has to go wrong and it's done. I won't make it.
Right. How was the weather? Did you have good weather?
It was very stable. I did have a heat wave or I don't know how it's called in the Mojave Desert. So Joe was telling me, on every television they're advising people to stay inside, and then I was running there for 14 hours in the sun, running 45 miles. And so that was, I did consider, why don't I run everything at night? But for me, I couldn't take the mental struggle to go through something like that, just seeing the beam of your headlight and running at night the whole time. For me, the nature and the landscape is a very big part of doing something like it. And I couldn't run at night. And then in Washington, I did get a few days of rain, which were really miserable because my feet, it was getting kind of trench feet, it's called, I think, when they get really wet and they're not able to dry anymore. But luckily it got dry again. And then, the weather all in all had been really stable.
Well, what do you think was the hardest part of doing this? I mean, was there one aspect of it that was just the biggest challenge?
Afterwards, it's always hard to remember because you forget the hard parts so easily. But I do remember the sleep deprivation was just miserable, really. I mean, the only thing we wanted to do was sleep, but there was just no opportunity to do it. And it's something you really long for, just a good night's sleep. But there wasn't a single time where I could just sleep long and start the day a bit late because, it was so important to stay on schedule. Because if you, see you're losing on the former record, it might get into your head and you might start doubting, and we didn't want to do that. But the sleep deprivation was just pure misery.
Oh, I can imagine. And it was for both of you, like you were saying. Joe got to sleep even less. And he was putting some miles in then to meet up with you on the trail. I mean, how many miles was he putting in?
It depended. Like in the Sierra, he had to hike like 20 miles to get to me on a pass without a trail. There was supposed to be a trail, but it wasn't there anymore.
Oh,
It's still something we recall every now and then. It's a pass called Sawmill Pass, and it looked good on the map because then I had more or less 50 miles for that day, and further north it was too far, and further south it was too close to stop for that day. So we took that one, but the trail wasn't there, and then afterwards when we were looking up information about the trail, they said, yeah, you definitely need an early start because it gets so hard and so hot because it's the eastern side of the mountains. And then when he started, it was at 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. or something, and he arrived at 12:30, and I arrived at 1 a.m. And then we slept for 2 hours. He returned to 20 miles. I carried on, and I had to do 3 major passes that day. It was a hard time.
Wow. Man, it would be fun to interview him to get his perspective, because what he did was no small feat either. That's crazy. That's wild.
I'm really happy that, I mean, Joe I knew it when he was saying he was considering joining me for something like that. He's one of the most optimistic guys that I know. And I knew if I'm going to make something like that, it has to be with a friend like him who's just, even in the deepest of misery, will say, tell a joke or make a funny remark or say, okay, it could be worse, and that was very important as well. We just had to stay positive, and if my support would have been negative, I would have given up, and if I would have been negative, he would have left me probably as well. So we were a great team, but Joe was just incredible at the time.
Yeah, I see how important that is. Absolutely critical for the success of an endeavor like this.
Yeah, and Joe McConaughey, the former record holder, was supported by 3 or 4 friends, so they could share tasks. And one guy was in charge of the planning, one was giving massages, the other one was preparing the food. For me, it was just Joe, and he was just multitasking.
Wow.
like crazy. He was updating on Facebook and making some videos as well. He was doing laundry. He was planning everything. He was shopping for food, and it was just crazy.
Man, his days were even longer than yours. Maybe not distance wise, but time wise. What he had to do. That's crazy. Well, what about one of the very best moments on the trip? Can you just describe to us what it felt like?
There's one moment that will always stand out, and it was 5 days before the Canadian border, and Joe was going to meet me at, I think I was going to do 58 miles or something that day, or 60 miles even. But then as he got onto the trail that he was going to take, he realized the trail wasn't there anymore. It was washed out. And people on the internet remarked that they tried it and it took them 14 hours to complete it or something. So he realized he couldn't take that trail. And then he called to me on the satellite phone and said, yeah, okay, I'm going to take the next trail that's a bit further north. And I was scrolling down my GPS and I just couldn't find the next trail, and it was 20 miles out further north. But I already had a 58 or 60 mile day. So that was just, desperation. And then we decided, okay, both of us will go on through the night and until we meet up. Joe had to do first that long trail, then he got onto the PCT, and then he was going to start heading south until he met me. And then both of us were, I fell asleep while running. I had to lie down on the trail and sleep a bit until I woke up from the cold 15 minutes later and carry on. And then Joe was hallucinating at one point. But then, the sun rose and we still didn't run into each other. And then the sun got up a bit higher, and then finally we saw each other. And that moment was, beyond you're not able to describe it, because both of us had been through such a horrendous night. And then the sun rises and you see the mountains again. And then you see your friend who's been with you for 48 days and very rough conditions. And then, that was a glorious moment. But then, we slept for 2 hours and carried on again. There was no other way. We had to stay on schedule.
Some people would say, I think this is the definition of hell.
Well, it was in a way, but I mean, if you go through hell yeah, you can experience things that you cannot experience in another way. I mean, yeah, sometimes it needs a bit of effort to experience something great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, no doubt. So now looking back on it, it's a year later since you started,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So looking back on it, are you glad you did it? Do you want to do it again? What's your perspective from here?
Yeah, so that changed a bit over the months. So the first half a year, I was like, okay, that was it, I'm done. But from the first day, I was so happy with the experience, and I would never doubt doing it again if I were to go back in time or something. So I would always do it again. It was one of the greatest experiences in my life. But then at first, yeah, I was thinking, okay, I'll never do this again, and the pain and the misery was just too big. But then, yeah, as I said before our recorded conversation, I'm slowly considering running the Appalachian Trail in 2018. So it does seem that I'm not, yeah, too shocked by how it was, and it does start to itch to get out onto an adventure like that again. So uh, I think it's something positive that I even consider doing something like that again.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But I have to warn you, this is true. We forget the hard parts. We just remember the fun.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I realize I'm doing that myself. I forget all the hard times, and to me now the PCT seems like the adventure of a lifetime, and it's nature and adventure and fun. But yeah, there was many hard moments as well, or mostly hard moments even.
Well, I can't let you go without asking this for our listeners who are not ultra runners, but they're interested in it. Do you have some advice on how people can get started and get up to being able to do distances like this? Well, maybe not like this, but ultra running distances.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important to gradually grow into it, because if you push it too fast, you'll get injured in no time. Even if you haven't been injured at all. For me, it was the same. My whole life I never was injured, and then I decided, okay, I'm going for the PCT. I started pushing it, and I got really bad shin splints that got me off training for 2 months, and then the next 4 months I could feel my shins when I was running. So you really have to take your time if you want to get into it. And then, yeah, do it at places that you like. I mean, don't go for a marathon or a 50 or 60-kilometer run in the city, because then, yeah, you won't find the energy to keep on going. You have to get into nature, and then, yeah, you start to experience it yourself. If you go on, and the feeling that it gives when you, or that you get when you do distances like that, you kind of get into it.
Yeah, good word. The other question I have to ask is about your running pace. Not how fast you're going, but your actual stride. So there, people think of jogging. That's one thing, and then there's sprinting, and then there's running, and then there's your ultra running stride. How is that different?
Yeah, so it's very different, and also very important to do it. Usually people call it the ultra running shuffle or something. It's more like a shuffle. You're running in a very minimalistic way, saving energy as much as possible. So like your arms are close to your body. Your stride isn't too big. You're not moving with exaggeration. It's all very compact and minimalistic. Just to save on energy. So you do have to train on that as well.
I've tried to run that way because I wanted to do longer distances, and I can't discipline myself to do it. I reach out with I have long legs, and I like to use them. And so I always go too fast. I always make my stride too long, which is bone jarring and exhausting. But that's just me,
Yeah. but also, yeah, what I experienced, if you then keep on running, somehow you just get into that shuffle anyway, even without thinking about it. I mean, if you run way past where you're comfortable, you end up running that ultra shuffle
No choice.
without without watching the internet, finding videos on how to do it. It's just the basic type of running when you're doing something like that. I just think it's the human body that makes you run like that.
Right. Well, Karel, man, what an amazing story. What an amazing feat. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you
I'm
very
blown
much.
away that you're able to pull this off. To me,
Yeah.
it's completely superhuman, but
Yeah.
very, very cool.
Yeah, I was just an incredible experience. I'm so happy that I had the chance to do something like it. Yeah.
So, Karel, if people want to know more about your run on the PCT and also things that you're planning for the future and that sort of stuff, how can they track with you?
Yeah, the easiest way would be my Facebook page that is called Karel Sabbe Ultra Running, and on that page I post what I'm currently doing, and soon I will start posting videos on the PCT record attempt. They are edited and they will have some interviews and some voiceovers explaining what is going on and how we were doing at the time. We have tons of footage and we will start sharing that soon. So Karel Sabbe Ultra Running is the Facebook page.
And Sabbe is Sabbe.
Yeah, correct. And Karel is a Karel, not it's not spelled the American way.
Okay, so Karel Sabbe Ultra Running on Facebook. Yeah. And so that's going to be the best way to be able to see what you were doing and live vicariously through you a little bit.
Yeah, and also if people are wondering if I will break the Appalachian Trail speed record as well, they can follow that there as well.
Will you do us the favor of closing out the show by describing what it felt like on the last leg of the last day when you finally finished?
Yeah, I mean, it even makes me a bit emotional again. Just thinking about it again, it's just there's so much going through your head, and it's pure joy. It's pure. You don't know what you're thinking anymore. It's so mixed feelings. It's it's all over, but do you want it to be over? Yes, but on the other hand, no. It's incredible. I mean, when I was finishing and some family was there as well at the border, and it was things to remember, really, just for the rest of my life, really.
Mm. So how did you celebrate when it was all said and done?
I had a cold beer. I'm still a Belgian after all, so for me that was a way to celebrate that it was over. But then actually it wasn't over because Joe and I had to drive all the way back to Los Angeles, and then the day after we had to fly back to Belgium, and the day after I started working again. So
jet lagged on top of all the rest.
Yeah, that was not the best choice, but I took 2 months off and I had to really get back to work, and it was a bit of a shock to me. But
that's amazing. Wow. Yeah. Wow. I have to ask, what kind of beer was it?
I think it was just the first one available, a local one.
Okay.
I always drink local beers. I don't remember which one it was. It might have been a Canadian even as well, because it was in Manning Park. But
that's funny.
It was cold. Funny. It was delicious, and
Well, very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us on the Adventure Sports Podcast, man. I know that our listeners are inspired. I know that I'm inspired. It's amazing what you did. Congratulations again, and thank you again.
Yeah, you're very welcome. I always enjoy talking about it, and I'm glad you were interested. And it was great again to get back some memories and talk about it again. Thank you as well.
Oh, you bet. And for all of our listeners out there, while you don't have to set a land speed record on the Pacific Crest Trail to have fun, but it is one way to have fun if you want to, as Karel has proven to us. So until the next show, figure out what your fun is, get out there and do it.
Coming up on Thursday, we'll have rock climber, author, and publisher of the climbing zine, Luke Mayhall, on. Until then, get out and have some fun.